Welcome back to the channel. My name is Douglas, and in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through how to record a microphone into the MPC Key 37. So if you know anything about the MPC Key 37, it doesn't have XLR inputs in the back of it. It only has 1/4 inch, which is a problem if you've got any sort of traditional microphone. You either need to convert it or you need to use an audio interface. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of using an audio interface to be able to record a microphone. And this is what I've found gives me the best result when I'm trying to record vocals or sample into the MPC Key 37. So before we jump into how to set up the audio interface, I want to take you around to the back of the MPC Key 37 and walk you through a couple of things there. So on the back of the MPC Key 37, if I move over a little bit, you'll see we have two inputs, a left and a right, as well as a volume knob, min-max, for the recording level. As you'll notice, compared to like the MPC Key 61, that actually has XLR inputs for microphone cables, and it has the ability to do phantom power for those inputs. We don't have that here with the MPC Key 37. So if we want to use a microphone like a condenser that requires 48-volt phantom power, we have to get a little bit clever. So one way to get around this is to use an audio interface like I've got the Mini Fuse 2 from Arturia here. It's a really nice portable 2-channel interface that's powered by USB. There's a lot of different options when it comes to audio interfaces that you can plug into the back. But one great thing with the MPC line is that you can plug USB devices into it and it will recognize them similar to the way a computer does. So if we take this Arturia Mini Fuse 2, this has a USB-C in the back of the interface and then a traditional USB on the other side of this cable. That's going to be important because on the back of the MPC Key 37, we don't have a USB-C for an input device. We only have traditional USB. So I'm going to plug this into the back of the MPC Key 37. We're going to take a look at a couple of settings within the keyboard itself that will allow us to use this as the audio input device. And I'll talk here in a minute about what advantages we have with using an audio interface versus just an adapter that converts an XLR to a 1/4 inch. So we're going to plug this into the back of the MPC Key 37. And we can see here that the lights on the interface are on, which means it's getting power, which is a great thing. And one advantage with using an audio interface rather than using an adapter, because they do sell adapters that will convert an XLR to a 1/4 inch, and you could plug them into the back. But the problem you run into is if you're using a microphone, like a condenser microphone, like you would see artists use in the studio, those require 48-volt phantom power. I have an SM7B Shure microphone here, and while it's not a condenser microphone in itself, I do have a cloud lifter which boosts the signal. That does require phantom power. So if I were to just plug this microphone straight in without the cloud lifter, I could go through an adapter into the back of the MPC Key 37, but if I want to use the cloud lifter, I need 48-volt phantom power. This keyboard does not provide that. That's where you need an audio interface to be able to actually power the 48-volt that's needed by either the microphone or, in my case, the cloud lifter device. So what I'm going to do is actually take the microphone from my Focusrite audio interface here, and I'm going to grab that cable and we're going to plug that into the audio interface. I also need to turn the 48-volt phantom power. If you can see that right there, 48-volt is turned on. And I have gain knobs here for my 2 channels. Now, audio interfaces are all different. Some don't have gain, some only have 1 channel, some, like my Focusrite, has 2 channels on the front and multiple input channels on the back. So it's really going to depend on the audio interface you're using as to what you have for options. But they're not that expensive to grab just a 1 or 2 channel USB powered audio interface. That's going to work fine. And it's going to give you a lot of flexibility when it comes to actually recording with a microphone into the MPC Key 37. So I'm going to set the audio interface down over here. And let's talk about the input gain knob on the back of the MPC Key 37 real quick. So we looked at that just a minute ago. And if you're using a guitar or something where you can just go 1/4 inch into the back of the MPC Key 37, you can use that gain knob or the input level on the back of the MPC Key 37 to adjust the input gain for whatever device, bass, guitar, whatever it is that you have plugged into there. Because we're using an audio interface, we're going to use the gain from that audio interface rather than the gain knob won't do anything that's on the back of the 37. So we don't need to worry about that. Everything's going to be on the audio interface here. And let's go into the menu here and let's check out a couple settings. So right now we have an empty project here on the MPC Key 37. And if I were to come over to the audio page here on our main screen, and I were to tap on this microphone, you'll see I'm not getting anything in my input meter here. And that's because we don't have the input set correctly for this keyboard. And so if we come over to our menu, then we go to Preferences and Audio Device, you'll notice my audio device is set to internal. So all of the sound coming out of the MPC Key 37 is routing, as well as the inputs, through the internal audio device. If I press down on the encoder, you'll see my other option is this Arturia Mini Fuse 2 USB audio interface. If I press down on that, what's going to happen is the routing within the MPC Key 37 is going to change. So both the audio coming in and the audio going out are going to be going through the audio interface rather than through the keyboard. So if we come back to our main track view now, notice how I'm getting signal just in the left side. And that's because my input is set to inputs 1 and 2, creating a stereo pair. What I can do is switch this to just a single input. And now you'll notice when I tap on the microphone, I'm seeing signal here in my meter. Now I could bring the gain of the audio interface up to get more or less. What you're going to want to make sure is that you set your level so you're not getting distortion or peaking in that level. So test it out. Now, one thing to note here is that you're probably going to have to take your headphones and plug them into the audio interface, because not only is the input, the microphone, coming from the audio interface into the MPC Key 37, but the output from the keyboard is also now routing to the output of the audio interface. So while it's easy to do when it's just you and you're plugged in, you can just put your headphones into the audio interface and you'll be able to hear everything. For the sake of the video, I'm actually recording the outputs of the keyboard itself into Pro Tools. And so because I changed the routing, you nor I can hear anything that's going on here because we've routed it to this other audio interface instead. But what I wanted to demonstrate here is where you go to change the audio settings, which is in your preference menu, and then how to change which input it's coming from through this menu here. Now, in the MPC 3 software, which should be coming out probably sometime this year, the MIDI and audio are combined, so you don't have these two pages, one for MIDI, one for audio. So that's a little bit different, but the method of actually getting the microphone plugged in and recording in the MPC Key 37 is really the same with the initial hardware setup that we've got going on here. Now, a couple other tips when you're recording audio. If we look over here, down at the bottom here, we have this, it says off right now, but if we tap on that, it now says in, and then we can also tap on auto. So if you want to hear what you're recording while you're recording, you're going to have to make sure to set that to in or auto. If it's off, that's basically your monitor back is essentially not going to let you hear what you're recording if that's set to off. And if it's set to in and you finish recording and you want to play back, you either have to put it to auto or off, because if it's set to in, it's going to mute the out of that audio track and only be doing the monitor back for the live signal. So again, off is going to let you hear what you've recorded. In is going to let you hear what you are recording at the time you're recording it. And then auto is going to switch. So oftentimes I leave mine on auto. The other thing we have to make sure is that the track is armed in order for you to actually record anything when you record it. So while I can't hear anything, I'm just going to talk into the mic and I'm going to hit record. And we're going to come, we can see we're going to get a 4-beat count in. And then if I talk into the microphone and we say a bunch of things, you can see the playhead moving and I press stop. Now, while I'm on this audio track, if I come over into grid view, you'll see there's the audio that we recorded through this microphone. And again, this will work whether you're doing the recording through here or if you're in your sampler. We come over to the sampler, we can do the same thing, set our input to input 1, and we can see that right there. We've got signal there. and we can sample using this microphone as well. So doesn't really matter whether you're recording audio tracks, sampling, the actual hardware setup behind plugging the microphone in is the same. So again, coming back to this, could you use an adapter? The answer technically is yes, but you're gonna get a better result using an audio interface. Even a cheap one, $100, $150, is gonna give you more control over the microphone, and it's gonna let you power that if you have an audio interface that has the capability of powering with 48 volt phantom power. So keep that in mind as you're looking at audio interfaces, unless you already have one, but try it out. Plug it in with a USB. And then of course for you, it's gonna be easy. Just take your headphones, plug them into the audio interface so you actually hear the keyboard and the microphone. Other than that, of course, you need the microphone. So if you don't have a microphone, there's a lot of microphones out there, and you really don't have to spend a lot, especially if you're sampling things for your drum hits and stuff like that. So that's how I record a microphone into the MPC Key 37. Hopefully this was helpful for you in just giving you a little bit of context into recording into the MPC Key 37. Of course, you could do this with line inputs as well, but if you're using a guitar or something like that, chances are you don't need the audio interface. You can just go into the back with those 1/4 inch inputs in the back of the MPC Key 37. If you have any questions around what I went over in this video, feel free to throw those down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching, stay inspired, and keep making that music.